Hi, welcome again to Let's Get Working special edition of How to Get and Keep a Job. Today, Martin and I will be talking about interview skills.
Now, Martha, if we're good at interview skills, there's a real problem because it means we've had lots of practice, and if we've had lots of practice, that means we've not been able to get it right or we can't keep a job. So don't be worried if you're not that good at interview skills just yet.
Okay, so there are some common questions that people ask at interviews.
Absolutely.
And so I'd like to talk about some of them today,
Sure.
as well as get your expert opinion on whatever else you'd like to tell us about interview skills.
Okay.
All right. So one of the main questions that you get asked is, so tell me about yourself.
Oh, and isn't that an awful question?
Yes.
What do you say? Do you say, well, and list all of the wonderful things about you, or do you say, oh, there's not much to say, and sound like, there's nothing happening in your life?
Yes.
So it's kind of a difficult question. Tell me about yourself. I would say something like, well, I've always been interested in the sort of work that we're doing here, or the sort of work that you're doing, or I've been learning about your business for the last 6 months, 6 minutes, whatever it might be. And I'm finding that it sits very well with my personality, because by nature I'm someone who is, it's not me, conscientious and detailed, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So try and answer in a positive way, and start talking about some of your skills or strengths.
Okay, so you're talking about your personal qualities.
Yeah, I'm pleased to say that I've always been a very honest person, and I've brought a reference that actually talk about how hard I work. So I'm hard-working, I'm honest. What else were you looking for?
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So another question that's often asked is, why do you want to work for this company?
And there's a whole bunch of reasons. And truthfully, the honest answer might be because I'm desperate for money.
Yep.
But that's not what you say.
Okay.
Okay, so in previous ones I've said be honest.
Yep.
Well, you don't want to be dishonest. At the same time, you don't necessarily want to say because I can't pay my bills.
Yep.
So I would be looking for an honest reason that I could give with some sincerity. So actually, Martha, one of the reasons I'd like to work for you is I was talking to one of my friends who I think you actually know, and they said to me, working with Martha is just a pleasure because she's someone who's genuinely interested in other people, and that's something that we share. So that's why I want to work with you.
Okay.
Or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not be as obvious as that. It could be, well, I want to work for this company because I've noticed that you're obviously very busy, and I want a place where I can get occupied and stay occupied. Or I really like the way the place is set up. It looks to me like an environment in which I could fit in, or whatever it may be. But for goodness sake, don't say, I want a job, because that's not a good answer.
Yeah. So perhaps focus on the culture of the company.
If you can find out what that is, absolutely.
And also what you can do for them.
Yes.
On a personal level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll find that if you hire me, you get these things.
Yeah.
Not I want a job because I want some of your money. That's
not going to get them far.
It's not so cool.
Okay. So sometimes you might be asked about your previous work history.
Yep. And there can be some problems with that because you may not have a previous work history, or there might be some big gaps in your work history, or you might have just got fired. Okay, so there can be some things that you think, well, there's honesty and then there's foolishness. We don't necessarily want to say, well, I got fired from the last job because I was constantly taking time off.
That's not going to get you the job.
Well, unless you say, and you know what? That was right, and I've really learned from it, and I'm never going to make that mistake again. Then you could say it, and indeed that might be a good way to deal with a real problem. Truthfully, when I was 16, I had quite a few jobs while I was 16, and quite a few while I was 17, because I was trying to find out what I wanted to do. So I'd start jobs, and sometimes I'd walk out. And that's, I guess, okay when you're a kid, but it doesn't look great on your work history. No. So you have to deal with things like that honestly. Well, Martha, I was working for Ryan, but I found I learned a lot while I was there because I didn't appreciate that opportunity. And I've learned from that experience, and I want to give it another go, and I'm looking for somebody that will give me that chance.
Yep.
So I've dealt with it honestly.
Okay. Yep.
I haven't lied, and I've put out on the table something that the employer might know already or could very readily find out.
What about gaps? What if you've been unwell? How do you address that?
Well, there's a couple of issues. One might relate to disclosure of disability, and I think we've dealt with that in the previous video, so we'll refer your viewers back to that previous issue.
Yeah.
Or it could be, for whatever reason, you have had a period of illness. I was unwell for 2.5 years. That's the longest period I've ever been sick. It's a big gap in my resume.
Yeah.
And I'm always very honest about it. I say, look, for that time I wasn't well. It took me a long time to get better, but I'm much better now. And in fact, I haven't been sick for a long time.
Yeah.
An awful lot of unused sick leave.
Okay. Yeah, so it's about being upfront and honest and as much as you can.
Isn't that a theme? I think we've spoken about this in a number of videos. The mistakes people make have to do with honesty.
Yeah.
And if we're always honest, if we're always upfront, we can't come unglued.
So I guess to talk about the honesty thing again, you need to be who you really are. You can't be somebody that you're not.
No, you don't want to. I remember one particularly spectacularly bad interview I did when I was a young man, and the interviewers said to me, "Tell us about your education." And I said, and to my shame, and it stays with me, I'm going to embarrass myself on camera. I said, well, I've learned a lot in the school of hard knocks, which was a ridiculous answer. It was a childish answer and an immature answer, which was okay because I was all of those things. Yeah. But it wouldn't impress me as an interviewer. I'd want to know what school you went to, how long you were there, and whether or not you did any good.
Okay, yeah. All right. So, another question is that they might ask you what kind of skill set that you've developed in your previous jobs.
Okay, so have a think about that before the interview.
Yeah.
What skills do you bring? Now, they might be, if you're young, they're going to be quite limited. And a skill might be enthusiasm.
Yeah.
You know, it's a quality, not necessarily a skill, I know. But I'd be talking about the good things I'd got. If I was young, I'd be saying, well, I'm enthusiastic, I'm keen to learn, I'm kind of like a blank canvas. Yeah. And I want to soak up information and get better so that I can be a good employee and one day be a great worker at whatever it is.
Okay. So another question might be, why have you moved on from previous roles?
And again, you've almost got the same answers here. Yeah. Did you choose to do so, or were you encouraged? So it really depends. Again, I'd be saying it's perfectly reasonable to change jobs. If you say, well, I spent 5 years with Woolworths, and frankly, I just got tired. I wanted a change. Yeah. Or I went to work for Acme, and look, I thought it was going to be this and that, but the truth is they're a good company, but it wasn't what I really wanted to do, and I'm looking for something where I can really fit in, and that's why I've been looking at working with you.
Okay, yep, that sounds good. I mean, it really addresses the issue of why you've moved on and things like that.
You're entitled to.
Yeah.
So talk about that in honest terms. Yeah. What people are looking for is they're looking for things that you might have done that they wouldn't necessarily want happening to them.
Okay, all right. And also with the changing job market the way it is, a lot of places open up and close, and people are
absolutely right. There's one other thing I'd add. When someone says to you, "Why did you move on?" for goodness sake, don't say, well, because Acme Industries, a bunch of idiots. Yeah. No one but a fool would work for them. Yeah. You know, because if you bag out the previous place you worked, the people that are interviewing you know that tomorrow it'll be them. Yeah. So it doesn't impress them. Don't say because they weren't honest. Don't say because, even if that's the case, don't say it. Just say, look, I got as far as I could go and I wanted to move on. Yep.
This is a massive question, and people in my job club really struggle with this one, and that is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? So how would you...
If I had to say that?
Yeah.
Do you want me to be truthful? I guess I better be, because I keep going on about it.
Yeah.
I am a very bad finisher. I'm a great starter. Lots of ideas, but I have to knuckle down. I have to teach myself to knuckle down to finish projects that I start.
So is it a weakness?
Skill. Yeah, it certainly was.
Yeah.
I think I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
I think I'm across it and I'm working on it, but I'd certainly say, look, innovative, imaginative, creative, sure. Finisher, ooh, has to work hard to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So just point out something that you are working on improving.
Absolutely. Don't say, look, I'm hopeless with time. I never turn up early. The last job, I don't think I made it once. That won't do.
No.
If it's the truth, you just say, look, I think one of the things that really annoys me sometimes is punctuality, because I get caught up in what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so while I'll stay back late, sometimes I don't necessarily hear the alarm clock. I'm working on that and make sure I don't let you down.
And that's the emphasis, that you're working on it.
Yeah, don't just say I've come to terms with the fact that I'm dishonest. that won't work.
No. Okay. So another thing that has come out in interviews is your attitude. You need to have a real positive attitude.
Look, in the interview itself, you have to be upbeat. That's good eye contact and very positive. It doesn't matter if you've failed at the last 50 interviews. They're all yesterday. The one that matters is the one you're in now. So be upbeat and positive about it, because people appreciate it. Smile. People love a smile.
Yeah. A common thing that happens at interviews is that people go and it's over before they know it.
Mm.
Is there anything they can do to extend the interview?
Slow the pace down?
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of things that are really important, and there's no excuses these days for not doing them. Mm-hmm. The first thing is find out some stuff about the people that are interviewing you.
Okay.
Find out about the company. If you put your name into Google, I'll find you, won't I?
Yeah, there's about 2 pages.
There's about 2 pages, so you've done it.
Yeah.
So I'll do that research. I'll find out as much as I can about you, and then you work for Nova. I'll do the same with Nova Employment.
Yeah.
So I know a bit about it when I come in, because then I can do that most important thing, ask some smart questions myself.
Okay. Yeah.
So Martha, you've been with Nova for a bit. How would you describe the philosophy of the organisation? And all of a sudden, that's changed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now I'm interviewing you.
Okay.
And that's fair, because if I come to work for you, I'm going to be there for an awful lot. The only other thing I'll do more of is sleep.
Yeah.
It's sleep first. That's what we do most of. After that, we do work.
Yes.
So I'm going to be spending most of my time with you. I want to know what sort of a person you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, I'm going to be interviewed. Goodness me, what about, do I get the questions right? It's, hang on, if I'm coming to work for you, I need to find out whether or not this is a good place to be working.
Okay, so you're saying that we should interview them as well?
I think it's only fair.
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to trust yourself to turn up and be okay, you might want to know a few more things about the company. So Martha, tell me, what's the staff turnover like?
Okay.
Why do people leave?
Mm.
How many people work here? And what's the average sort of staff turnover? How long do they stay? What skills do they learn?
Mm.
Do you provide training?
Yep. Well, they were really good questions.
Mm.
Yep.
So have a think about because you know what? I will not hire someone that doesn't ask me some questions, because I figure they're idiots. So you got to take the same opinion for other people that do interviews. Find out something about the company and ask some questions.
Sounds good.
It can't hurt.
No. All right. Do you have any other tips for them?
Now let me think. What have I said that's important for me?
Eye contact.
Make sure that you're involved and engaged in the interview.
Yeah.
Know something about the company. Mm-hmm. Have some intelligent questions that you can ask. If you want to find out whether they're intelligent, ask some of your friends.
Yeah.
So that if you're not certain, get some other advice on it.
Mm-hmm.
Ask some good questions and be really positive. And at the end of the interview, there's one other question you need to know. When you make your decision, Martha, actually there's 2 questions. First question is, Martha, is there anything else I can tell you that will help me get this job?
Oh, wow. It's pretty out there.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
If I want it,
yeah.
Why not ask for it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you say, well, no. Okay, great. When do I start?
Can you ask that? No.
Well, it's worth a try.
Okay.
I think it might depend upon the interview.
Yeah.
But you can certainly say when you're going to make a decision, and will you tell me? Will you let me know?
Yeah.
Because even if I'm not successful, I would really appreciate some feedback on this interview, and some pointers for where I might be able to improve for next time.
Yeah, and that feedback is really gold. Like it's really worthwhile getting, so that you can keep stepping up and forward into your next interview.
Yeah, because we're not. If we get good at interviews, there's a problem, eh?
Yes. True.
You know, it's like yes, I've interviewed hundreds of people, but I've only been interviewed myself a few times.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be better as the interviewer rather than the interviewee.
True. All right.
Is that it?
Yep.
Excellent.
So. All right.
Well, good luck with your interviews.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good luck, everyone. If you have any questions, just write me an email, and I'll get back to you. The email address is info@letsgetworking.com.au. See you next week for the wrap up.
Next
Bye.
time.